Somebody did a video on how good bonus damage and damage reduction are. And I kind of want to see this because I don't know what to, I don't know what to build. I don't know what to build.
Bonus damage.
All right, let's take a look at this. Who is this by? This is by Grobs.
And damage reduction. How good is bonus damage and damage reduction? These stats are designed for certain classes, so let me explain how they work and which classes can use them best. Okay, let's start with the basics. So bonus damage increases your damage by a flat value per hit. So for example, imagine you're using Guillotine Blade and you deal 10,000 damage. If you add now 10 bonus damage to your equip, then your total damage becomes 10,010 damage. So you just deal 10 additional damage. I know that sounds not much, and it is also not much. It's only 0.1% additional damage. Okay, now let's confirm that on an actual example. On the left video we have...
Is it on per hit though, or is it just like total to the whole skill?
0 bonus damage. And we deal with Guillotine Blade 6,569 damage.
Nice.
And the clip on the right, we have 13 bonus damage. And here we deal 6,582 damage. Because we have...
Wait! What? Wait! Bonus damage is a joke. What the? Bro, that's trash.
We have 13 more bonus damage, we just deal here additional 13 damage. And of course I balanced here all my stats out, so in both cases we have the exact same stats, except the additional 13 bonus damage. But important is that bonus damage applies per hit we are doing. So for example, a skill
okay, so it is per hit. So if there's 11 hits, it should be 130 damage.
Crossfire
or 111 damage.
Hits up to 4 times.
110 damage.
On each hit we are doing, we're adding up those 13 damage. So again, on the left you can see me using the skill with no bonus damage, and here each crit deals 158 damage. On the right side I have 13 bonus damage and each crit deals 171 damage. So again...
Okay, that's much more impactful. So on classes with small amounts of hit, bonus damage is complete garbage. Complete garbage. Can't see. Well, he said there was no damage on the left. Are you not listening? Yeah, but on crossbow, yeah, crossbow has like crazy amounts of hits. Like
13 damage more. But each of those hits will deal additional 13 damage.
But for greatsword, it's like garbage.
The more useful our bonus damage gets. Okay, but maybe you ask yourself now, what counts as hits? And that's pretty simple, it's just every damage number you see on your screen. For example, Crossfire shows 4 damage numbers, so it counts as 4 hits. Heavy attacks have only 1 damage number with ×2. So this is 1 damage number, so it counts as a single hit. Then you have the offhand weapon chance, which produces 2 damage numbers, so it counts as 2 hits, and so on. However, what is important here to mention is that bonus damage does not affect damage over time effects. Of course, that would be a little bit broken.
That would make Wand Dagger so good. Bro, Wand Dagger would be goated. If it applied to damage over time effects, that shit would... The curses would eat.
Okay, let's come to damage reduction.
Did you watch the other sieges? We're going to here in a second.
Damage reduction works the exact same way, but in reverse. It reduces incoming damage by a flat value per hit. So if we again take our guillotine example, if another player hits us with a spell for 10k damage, then 10 damage reduction would reduce the damage to 9,990 damage. Okay, again let's jump here into an example. On the left video I have 0 damage reduction and the guillotine blade hits me for 4,870 crit damage. On the right I have 5 damage reduction and therefore this skill hits for 5,865 damage.
Surprisingly correct. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think there are very few MMOs where those numbers would line up correctly. Black Desert is definitely not one of them. BDO, the numbers all over the place. That's why they hide stats from you, is so that you won't realize that your skills are not doing the damage that they should be doing. Like you just have to feel it. They're counting on your copium of being able to feel the difference.
So just 5 damage.
This is literally perfect. 5 damage reduction, 5 less damage.
Less. Okay, but the same as for bonus damage, damage reduction applies here per hit. against multiple hit skills, it reduces the damage for each hit. However, again, it does not affect dots. So some players believe bonus damage and damage reduction involve complex multipliers or hidden mechanics. This is just simply not true. Both stats simply add or subtract a flat value per hit. Okay, now the question, who benefits from these stats? Okay, of course.
It's crossbow, and then SNS, greatsword, spear users are benefiting from damage reduction heavily.
Of course, bonus damage is most effective on classes that land multiple hits. So to make it simple, if your damage number...
Is it just crossbow? I'm trying to think. I mean, some of the staff skills maybe, but like, you know, focus fireball, you know, like I don't think bow is really multiple hits, you know. I think that, damn, is it just crossbow that bonus damage is actually good on? Yeah, I don't really feel like staff is super worth it. No. Yeah. Spear dagger is super is a good combo. Yeah, but is it, how many hits are we talking about though? Spear dagger is great, but there's only like a couple skills where I'm like, oh yeah, you're getting that bonus damage value, you know? I think it's really just crossbow.
Numbers look like this, then bonus damage can be good. But if your damage numbers look like this, then you don't want bonus damage. And there are only a few high attack speed builds that do so many hits that it makes actually sense to build bonus damage. For the most part, those builds always include a crossbow. Of course, a lot of weapons have a single spell that benefits from bonus damage, but that's usually not enough. From the bow strafing, for example, scales excellent with bonus damage because you're doing so many hits with a skill. But that's also the only skill from the bow that's actually good with single bonus target, damage. Right? And just because of the skill, you're not going for bonus damage. So you really need to do a lot of hits. Otherwise, there's most of the time for sure a better alternative. Okay, let's come to damage reduction. Damage reduction is most effective against enemies or skills that deal many hits. If crossbow players benefit from bonus damage, then it's of course also good to build damage reduction against them. But for the most part, you only see tanks building it. Why?
I don't know. I have a fair amount of DR in my build, or endurance, I guess is called.
Because most tanks are...
I have that endurance, the ranged endurance or whatever, bro. I had to have it. Otherwise, the crossbow is just like one shot you. Like, yeah, you can just block it, but like now it's like crossbow's like a non-factor now. Once you're actually geared, you're like, oh yeah, nice spin, bro. And then you just kill him.
Attacking endurance, which makes enemy crit less often, which reduces, of course, the damage of each hit they are doing. And then they have really high defense values from their armor and their skills, which again decreases the damage of each hit they are getting. On top of that, tanks can passively block 40% of an attack using the block chance provided by the sword and shield. And this again...
Passive block, 40% of damage. Endurance, building endurance, less crits. Yep, okay. High defense. So wait, I thought that endurance was just... The way endurance was described to me was that endurance is damage reduction. I thought that endurance was literally damage reduction. It wasn't just crit. Endurance isn't DR. Endurance just reduces crit chance. Okay, and since crossbows have massive crit chance, crossbows do no damage now when they hit me. It lowers the chance of getting critical hit and max damage when they can. I see. So it's basically DR. Yeah, that's the way it was. It's like, oh, it's basically DR. That was like the thing. And so I've been working under the premise that endurance is just flat out DR. Really, it's reducing crits, but that is basically DR's function anyway. So yeah, that makes sense.
Reduces the overall damage they're getting per hit. And then of course the impact of your damage reduction is way higher. And that's why as a tank you often see so many zeros when someone attacks you. So especially if you play an endurance tank, and then damage reduction is always good for you. Okay, so
I think the epitome of every tank, like peaking in Throne and Liberty, like peak tank performance, that nut moment comes when a crossbow jumps in to spin on you in large scale PvP and they kill themselves. Right? Because like you use the two skills, like the counter barrier and then like the chain. I forget what it's not salvation chain, it's some like basically you're taking all of the damage for your party members that are around you, and then you have counter barrier that reflects it back at them, and they just die immediately. It's insane. There's a bonus damage expo build that can melt tanks through DR. Yeah, if they're not using counter barrier. Blood devotion. Yeah. Blood devotion. Blood devotion is insane. You blood devotion counter barrier, and the crossbow jumps in. Instead of doing all this damage, they just immediately kill themselves. It's peak. It's so good.
So damage reduction is clearly very good for tanks. But is it also good for other classes? And I would say no, it's not really effective.
Yeah, so damage reduction, now that he's explained it, damage reduction is really solid for tanks, like he said, but endurance is much stronger for like the squishy classes that aren't stacking damage reduction like this. Damage reduction really pays off the more of it you stack. You don't really want to stack damage reduction on a damage class. You really want to try to pump damage, right?
If it comes naturally with your build, then it's okay. But if you have to sacrifice something for it, it's really worth it. Okay, that's everything you need to know about bonus damage and damage reduction. I hope this guide clarified how these stats work and helped you to decide when and where to use them. If you still have questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you liked the video, want to support me,
this is a great video. I played a lot of Throne and Liberty, and I did not know exactly how all of this worked, and he showcased it all perfectly. There's the video right there. W content creator. I'm glad that somebody sent that to me. Like, I think a lot of people misunderstand how damage reduction works, because the way it was explained when we started is that like literally everybody, like even Canon was basically like, yeah, so it's endurance is basically DR. And it kind of is, but it's important to understand the distinction between the two, right? That's extremely important.